Hey everyone, today we're going to be looking at our Haiti Earthquake from 2010 presentation by Nitya and Tegas.
Today we'll be going over the when, where, and why the Haiti earthquake happened, along with the human and environmental impacts with some fun facts.
Okay, so on January 12th, 2010 at 4:53 p.m. local time, an earthquake with a magnitude of 7.0 ruptured on the south side of Haiti. And if you take a look at this graphic, you can see more specifically where this was taking place. So there's a couple of cities that were majorly affected. And as you can see, the area of damage goes approximately 40 miles north and then around 60 miles from east to west.
The epicenter of the magnitude earthquake was at Léogâne, 15 miles west of the capital, Port-au-Prince. It ruptured along the fault zone on the island of Hispaniola, and following the major earthquake, there were several energetic aftershocks starting at 5 p.m., and it lasted randomly throughout the full week.
And so how did this happen, or why did this happen? So the earthquake was caused by the Caribbean tectonic plate and the North American tectonic plate sliding past each other. And we call this kind of earthquake or interaction transform plate boundary. And so as you can see in this graphic, it's more specifically called a strike-slip fault. And so it's just two plates that are literally sliding past each other, which causes earthquakes in between the two plates. So as you can see in this picture, this is a more expanded upon graphic on the left side. You can see specifically where the shaking occurred and like how violent it was. So towards the middle, towards the epicenter, it was obviously much more extreme and it would have caused a lot more destruction. And then towards the outer edges, which stretch out about 120 miles on either end, 100 miles, those areas would have like some moderate damage, going all the way into the Dominican Republic as well. And then as you can see on the right, you can see the faults that are surrounding where the original fault was that caused the earthquake.
Okay, so moving on to the human impact, this earthquake sent shockwaves throughout the city. And to break it down into the number of fatalities and damages, according to the national authorities, there were 300,000 people that died and also another 300,000 that were injured. There were approximately 1.4 million people that were displaced and also homeless. This massive earthquake completely destroyed around 105,000 homes while damaging another 208,000 homes. There were 1,300 educational buildings that were destroyed, and over 50 hospitals that were destroyed. 180 government buildings collapsed, including the presidential palace and the parliament. Not only that, but several roads and bridges were also damaged and covered with debris. The destructive earthquake left the country with a weak political governance. These are some pictures of the aftermath of the earthquake. As you can see, like, this left the city with a bunch of floods, homes were destroyed, and kids and families were displaced. Okay, so the earthquake not only had a massive human impact, it also tremendously affected the environment. So along with the major human life impact, there were two major hazards affecting the landscape, including liquefaction and landslides. So liquefaction occurs when loosely packed waterlogged sediment at the near or at the ground surface loosens its strength, and this results in the ground shaking. So as you can see on the picture on the left side, you can see the construction that was normal and everything was fine, but then once liquefaction occurs, the buildings start to sink into the ground, and that just causes them to destroy. And then going back to the landslides.
Okay, so the landslides also tore apart the country, and they generally occur without the force of an earthquake triggering them, but when there are earthquake landslides, or more often than not, a result of major shaking. So as you can see here, on the right side, this would be the effects of a sort of landslide, as you can see, like towards the hillsides. And after the earthquake passed, it caused 2 3-meter tsunamis to strike, and these hit the coast of Haiti. And some other effects were a change in sea levels in local areas, with some parts of the land sinking below the sea. And the impact was local, and the geosphere was involved. All right. So this is another picture of how the environment was affected. As you can see on the left side, the water levels rose, and there's intense liquefaction on the docks. And then there's some more pictures on the right that show that. Okay, so besides all that, here's some interesting facts about the disaster, things that came after, or things that were affected by it. So $13.5 billion worth of donations and pledges came flooding in after this disaster from a bunch of nonprofit organizations and just people around the world. And because of this disaster, Haiti now has an earthquake surveillance network, which they did not have before. And during the first 5 months of this emergency response, UNICEF supported a water trucking operation that delivered clean water to about 680,000 people per day. And among the buildings that were destroyed, some of the famous ones were the Presidential Palace, the National Assembly Building, the Port-au-Prince Cathedral, and the main jail, and then as well as the Parliament, which we mentioned before. And this fact is a little more sad, but the communication systems on the air, land, and sea, transport facilities, hospitals, and electrical networks were all damaged by the earthquake, which slowed rescue and aid efforts. Okay, thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening.